The unlikely anchor. Ethan had just returned from his third tour, the desert dust replaced by the sticky condensation of a cheap bar glass. He was an active military man, but tonight he was just a ghost trying to feel solid again. 3 sheets to the wind and stubborn enough to think he could handle the drive home. The world was a spinning kaleidoscope of streetlights until it dissolved into a flash of headlights and a crushing, sickening sound. He remembered the smell of burning oil, the frantic beeping, and the sudden chilling silence. When the paramedics pulled him from the wreckage, he was mostly fine, just drunk, scraped, and hollowed out by the sheer knowledge of what he'd done. The woman in the other car, Clara, survived, but her left leg was shattered and her life was irrevocably broken. Her 5-year-old son, Leo, buckled safely in the back seat, had not. Ethan's trial was swift and his sentence appropriate for the crime. He was stripped of his rank, his honor, and his freedom. In prison, he wasn't just serving time. He was living under the crushing weight of Leo's death. The sound of the cell door locking was nothing compared to the sound of Clara E.R.'s silent sobs in the courtroom, a sound that haunted his sleep. He wrote letters of apology that were never sent, knowing words were useless against the damage he had dealt. Clara, meanwhile, underwent months of physical therapy, learning to walk again. But the true wound was the yawning, echoing absence of her child. For years, she was consumed by a grief that transformed into a corrosive rage. She focused her pain on Ethan, the faceless man who had stolen her future. Years passed. Ethan had become a different man, quiet, penitent, focused only on earning back an ounce of the dignity he had lost. Clara, having exhausted herself with anger, started volunteering at a prison outreach program, not for forgiveness, but simply to find peace. She wanted to look the monster in the eye and finally, truly, let go of the hate that was poisoning her own soul. Their first meeting was under the sterile lights of a mediation room. Ethan was prepared for screaming, for threats, for anything but the exhaustion in her eyes. "I didn't come here for an apology," Clara said, her voice raspy. "I came here to see if the man who destroyed my life is also destroyed. I need to know if it was just a random act of carelessness, or something I could understand." Ethan couldn't speak. He simply broke. He wept not for his time served, but for the life he took, detailing the guilt, the self-loathing, and the constant memory of the crash. He didn't ask for mercy, only to confirm that she was right to hate him. What Clara saw was not the careless soldier of that night, but a hollow shell of a man rebuilding himself with painful honesty, driven by a guilt as powerful as her own grief. She saw a soul in agony, and in a terrifying moment of clarity, realized that her hatred was keeping Leo's memory tied to a cycle of pain. She didn't forgive him immediately, but she saw a path to redemption for them both. Their communication continued through the program. She talked about Leo. He talked about his service and his overwhelming regret. She saw how his sentence was shaping him, turning him from an irresponsible boy into a grounded man. When Ethan was finally paroled, Clara was there, not to greet him, but to offer him a job at the small veterans counseling center she helped run. Their relationship was built not on romance, but on a terrifying shared history. It was a commitment to healing, a mutual acknowledgement that they were two survivors bonded by the worst possible tragedy. Years passed in the strange intimacy of shared sorrow. They talked about the meaning of second chances and the crushing injustice of fate. One quiet evening, sitting side by side, Clara looked at him. "Ethan," she whispered, "you can't bring Leo back. But you saved me. You saved me from hating the world forever." He looked at the woman he had irrevocably harmed, the woman who was now the single most important person in his life. He felt the terrifying, fragile hope of a new beginning. Their wedding was a small, quiet affair, marked by profound sobriety and respect. There were no grand declarations, only deep, knowing promises to honor the past while fighting for the future. 2 years later, their daughter was born. They named her Evelyn, meaning life or bearer of good news. Holding her tiny hand, Ethan looked across the crib at Clara. They didn't need to speak. Evelyn wasn't a replacement. No one could ever replace Leo. But she was a beautiful, improbable miracle. She was the proof that life, even after the darkest night, could find a way to anchor itself and bloom again, built on the impossible bedrock of forgiveness and an unconditional love forged from shared eternal pain.